just a quick review of what we went over last week. Let's go ahead and launch InDesign. But before we do that, I want to make sure that our folders are set up correctly. Hopefully you all brought your thumb drives and have them plugged into your computer right now. And I'm just going to create this folder on my desktop, which if you are using the cloud option and you're not bringing a thumb drive, but you're transporting your files to your cloud storage like Google Drive or Dropbox, you'll want to do this on your desktop and then move the files up to your folder. And so you don't need to create the folders each class for the whole, or you don't need to download the folders for each class. You'll just need to create the class folder for that day. But I'm going to create the actual overview folder for our whole class. And I'm going to call this folder GRC30. And then I'm going to double click and open up that folder. And then inside of there, I'm going to right click and choose new folder. And I'm going to create a folder for tonight's class, which is GRC30 _ today's date 25/01/22. So each time we get together, we're going to have a GRC30 _ with the date. And then inside of that folder, I'm going to switch to column view, which is my favorite. So we can see here's GRC30, here's our folder, and then all the assets that we create, including images, InDesign files, PDFs, all that should get stored inside of that folder. Now on your cloud storage drive, you should have a GRC30, or on your thumb drive, you will have a GRC30. On the thumb drive, you'll eventually have a whole bunch of folders here for all the classes that we're going to go through. On your cloud storage, you'll have the same thing, but what you'll do if you're using the cloud storage is you'll just create on your desktop the folder for tonight's class, or the class, whichever class it is, and then move that into your GRC30 folder on the cloud storage. Hopefully that's clear as mud. Open up InDesign. On your computers, there's a folder on the dock at the bottom that allows you, mine is not the same as yours, that allows you to navigate into the folder that has all of the Adobe products, and it's kind of a couple clicks to get to it. I think the fastest way is just to click on the spotlight icon, which is this magnifying glass at the top, and then type IND, and it's the first one usually. So we'll click on that, and that will launch InDesign. It's going. My computer's struggling a little bit today. If you get a message pop up that says allow InDesign to search the network, go ahead and say no, I do not want InDesign to have that privilege. Adobe doesn't need to know what's going on with our network. All right, so this is our welcome screen. From here we can create a new document, and so we're going to work with the letter. And again, this is just review from last week. Now, up in the upper right-hand corner, we have our Workspace Presets. These are configurations of panels and shortcuts that are designed for a specific use. So if you're working on, let's say, digital publishing, these will be a lot of the panels that you will want to use for digital publishing. If you're working on a book, that's going to change. So what we did is we created a new workspace that was our name. And so if you see that workspace, go ahead and click it. If not, let's go ahead and choose Essentials Classic. And I'm going to first off get rid of the CC Libraries panel. So I can right click and choose Close. And these guys are in a collapsed state. So I've got the double chevron here. If I click that, I can expand the panels and see all that's there. And then I'm going to go ahead and just save this workspace by choosing New Workspace, and then I'm going to give it a name. Jason. That's my name. Don't wear it out. Cool. All right, so now I have JSON available, so I can switch to book, or I can go back to JSON. Cool. All right. Last week we went over a few user interfaces. We looked at the selection tool, the direct selection tool. We talked about using the hand tool to move our workspace around. We talked about zooming in and zooming out, which is Command minus to zoom out and Command plus to zoom in. We learned that this lighter gray area here is called the pasteboard area, and that is for containing whatever page layout we've selected here. If we've got facing pages, those 2 pages will show up, but on the cover and the back, so if let's say we've got 4 pages total, we can see that on the cover it's to the right, the back cover is to the left, and then this page 2 and 3, the facing pages are in the center here. So but these little paste areas, we can put content in the hold temporarily if we want to. It's similar to Illustrator. In Illustrator you've got artboards and then a pasteboard, which all those artboards exist on. All right, so in the Pages panel, we created pages by hitting the little plus sign there. And so our selection tool and our direct selection tool will only select stuff that exists on these pages. Let me zoom into this page here. So we have nothing that we've created, so let's go ahead and create something. I'm going to go ahead and use the rectangle tool, and I'm going to draw out a rectangle. There it is. Now if I choose my selection tool, I can grab this and I can move it around. Now notice when I click in the middle of this, nothing is selected. I have to actually click on the path of that shape in order to select it. The reason for that is if we look over at this indicator here and also here, we can see that there's a stroke of black, which is that guy right there, and then the fill is empty. There's no fill. And if I want to give it a fill, I can click on this spectrum here and give it a fill. And if I want to change the color of the stroke around my shape, I can choose a shape from one of these guys here. And it's kind of hard to see because it's really tiny. So if I want to increase this stroke, I can click this drop down up here and I can go 10 points. And then if we zoom in on this, we can see that the actual stroke, which might be kind of hard to see on this. Let's get a little closer here. But you can see this faint blue line right here. That indicates the actual shape, and then the stroke exists on the outside and the inside. So this stroke is 10 points or 10 pixels, and so it's going to go 5 on the outside and 5 on the inside. Okay. Let's back up a little bit. Now we also talked about images and how they exist in a frame. And so we can actually use this rectangle frame tool, or we can choose a different shape, like the ellipse frame tool. And how this is different from the rectangle is that the shape tool, this is actually a shape as well, and we can edit this shape, but it's designed to hold a image, so it's kind of like a mask of sorts. So if I open up, let's grab an image here. There we go. We'll try this one here. I'm going to just grab this off the internet, and I'm going to drag it into our frame. That's not going to work. All right, let's drag this onto the desk. Nope, not going to work. All right, I'm going to have to place an image into that frame. So right here, file place. And let's grab this image from a trail cam that I have, and there it is. Now, the image is much bigger than the frame. And if I click on this, or if I hover over this, you'll see that this target pops up, and I can actually use this to move the image around. But because we're so zoomed in, it's hard to see. So with this frame selected, I can choose one of these fit options. So if I can fit content proportionally, it will zoom out on that image, and it will fit the image so that there's no white space anywhere around. So it zooms in the image so that the image extends across all of the bounds of this frame so that there's no excess. Now I can do this one right here, which, depending on the shape of the image, will sometimes show a little bit of white space. But if I click on this, you'll notice if I click on the shape, or anywhere that's not that little target, I get a blue bounding box. If I hover over that central spot and I click on it, now I get an orange bounding box or brown bounding box. So what this allows me to do is to move that image inside of the frame. I can also grab a corner, make sure you hold the shift key down so you can constrain proportionately or scale proportionally. And so now I've got a bigger image, and then I can jump back to make it fit in that space there. Okay. So we placed an external image. We looked at rectangle tool, the selection tool. We also have a direct selection tool. Direct selection tool allows me to click on a corner of a path and edit that. Edit that path. And the same is true for this one. Is going to give us kind of funky results. It is not going to let us do it. There we go. And we get these little handles, these Beziers, and we can change these curves, the math of this path. Now you notice that now I've got a little bit of white space up here, which is showing that the actual image that's inside of this frame doesn't completely go all the way to the top there. And so if I want to, I can use my selection tool and click back on this guy here, do that guy, and then it will give us a little better. Oh, there we go. That's the one that fits the content and shows the excess. That one's the one that always gives us the right results. Okay, cool. And then we took this and we exported this to a PDF. So I'm going to choose File and then Export. Oh, let's save this first. So File, Save, Save on your computer. And I'm going to go to my GRC30 folder and then the class folder for tonight. And I'm going to call it GRC30 _25 0122. And this is a lecture, so I'm going to call it LECT. But we actually, today is the 22nd, but this is a review for what we did before, so I might throw some things off as we go forward. Okay, and then last but not least is going to be your last name. So you don't type the word last name, it's actually your last name and your first initial. And then you'll notice that there are no spaces and no capitalization. Everything is lowercase with underscores. All right. So now my InDesign file is saved. Now I'm going to export that to a PDF. Make sure it's going to the correct folder. And we're going to select this folder form or this file format, and we're going to choose Adobe PDF for print. Click Save. Whole bunch of options that we will get into later, but for right now just go ahead and click Export, and then we're good. We should be able to open that file up now on our desktop. And there is the PDF.